Hey, welcome along to Drumm Roll. Annabelle Drumm here. And today I have with me a well-known figure in the Australian art scene. As a concert pianist, she launched her career through a number of music competitions in New York, making her debut at the Carnegie Recital Hall. She's since performed with many American orchestras in Greece and as guest artist of all Australia's major state orchestras. She founded a chamber touring group called Selby and Friends back in 1988, which tours annually and very well known for her series at the Sydney City Recital Hall called A Little Lunch Music. With albums recorded with Naxos and ABC in Australia, I'd like to welcome Kathryn Selby.
Hello, Annabelle.
Thank you so much for joining me today. You've been touring for such a long time now. It's fantastic. You must be so well used to moving all around the country and taking various guest artists with you. And I see that you like to look after young artists as well.
Yes, I think it's a function of my own training and the opportunities that were provided to me when I was growing up. I had wonderful opportunities thrown my way by the likes of Rudolf Serkin, Mieczysław Horszowski and other people who allowed me to work with brilliant colleagues who were a lot older than me and a lot more experienced. And going to the Marlborough Festival, for example, in Vermont, these experiences created a huge impression for me. So essentially, when I was in a position to do so, I wanted to include, I guess, emerging talent, if you like, brilliantly gifted young Australians who perhaps didn't have that opportunity given to them. There's a lot of solo opportunities given to young people in Australia, which is wonderful. I had the same thing when I was a little girl here. But the opportunity to work with colleagues who are a little older or a lot older, who have a lot of experience behind them. It's very different working within an ensemble than just being in a masterclass or being mentored by somebody. When you're actually working with them, it becomes a completely different experience.
So how is it different in working with, say, a chamber group or something where you're in on all the rehearsals? It's not just like as a guest artist, you come and you do your bit and you move on. When you're working with a chamber group, what sort of things do they pick up?
Predominantly, what you learn when you go into a chamber ensemble is how to work with your colleagues and their sense of humour, their method of rehearsal, the way you either should speak up and give your insights or your suggestions. That's always really helpful. And when you're very young and inexperienced, sometimes that's a little daunting to do, especially with the people that I invite onto the series who are, very high profile and they're very well known. So it's a terrific experience. And so far over the last 5 or 6 years, I've had lots of young people and they've always said to me afterwards what an amazing experience it was.
Do you think that it would encourage them to set up their own chamber groups more now that they've seen how it worked with older colleagues?
It's possible. I think a lot of them want to be soloists still. The young fellow who, for example, Harry Ward, who's in Beethoven's Ghost, over lunch one day when we were rehearsing, I asked him what his plans are. And, he said very interesting that he wanted to have a combination of things in his life.
Right.
Orchestral work, solo work, chamber work, teaching. This is what's quite important to a musician, to be well-rounded in that respect and to always be constantly learning. This is one of the things that's been so wonderful for me, is that working with these young people and all the people I work with, you always get an enormous amount from them because their life experience, their musical experience will automatically be different from yours.
There's things to learn from these young ones because they can teach you about multiple streams of income, about social media and the other places that you can pick up followers.
Absolutely. Look, everybody has a different experience and they bring so much to the rehearsals and the performances. There's no question that it's been an extraordinary experience for me too.
Okay. So with the COVID event that's happened this year, 2020, it's obviously changed things very dramatically for you because you're so used to doing your touring. But you were also very quick to get your material online and onto your website. So how has that whole process been for you and suddenly changing the color and the shape of the things that you're doing?
I started noticing what was happening overseas. I felt an obligation to those people who had become subscribers this year, who were patrons of Selby and Friends, and I didn't really want to stop. And the ability to put the concerts online and to film, that immediately came to mind. The difficulty was at the time I wanted to do the first one, we weren't really allowed to leave home. We weren't allowed to congregate in any numbers more than 3 or 4 people. There had to be a very big distance between us. So all of these obstacles were in place, and one had to overcome these in order to actually create what we did. And that was a fascinating process in and of itself.
So the subscribers that you've got at the moment, have you had feedback from them on putting your concerts online?
Oh, yes, of course. Enormous amount of feedback. By and large, I'd say 95% of them were very supportive, very keen, and loved what we did. So that's why I've kept going. And certainly after the first films came out of the concerts and the behind the scenes discussions and all of the stuff we did for the first one, which was really finding our way. I put out a survey to my patrons and asked them specific questions and then acted on how they responded and what specifically they said. So it's been a real learning curve for me, and putting things in place to allow this to happen, making the website more friendly, user-friendly, making it possible for us to keep going, having a venue like City Recital Hall who offered me space to do it. This kind of generosity and kindness is what, the arts world really relies on at the moment in this very difficult situation where people are desperately crying out for engagement with the arts, and it's very difficult.
So the way our Australian government seems to be going at the moment is not at all helpful to the arts. One thing I would say, though, is that the way that you've handled your career and the way that you are building your network with wonderful venues, with old and young colleagues in the music industry, and with your followers, I think this is what makes you resilient. This, to me, feels like what makes you continue on and you don't fall flat in the end, that you can keep this stirring along with the networking and particularly that feedback from followers. Because you think about it, before the internet, they might have been able to write you a fan letter, but you weren't really getting a conversation with them. And now we've got that, and you can react and respond to that. I think really it does change the scene for the better, that you have more interaction with your audience.
Absolutely, because, I've been doing this for more than 30 years now.
So you've got a new concert coming up on the 4th of July, and it's called Beethoven's Ghost. So that's kind of appropriate because Beethoven's 250th birthday this year. And tell us a bit about what's in the program.
I'm glad you asked. The program has 3 piano trios by Beethoven, all taking place at various times during his life that were watershed moments for him. We're including 2 piano trios, obviously Beethoven's great Ghost piano trio, Opus 70 No. 1, the C minor piano trio from the Opus 1 series, and Beethoven's own transcription for piano trio of his epic Symphony No. 2. So it's all Beethoven, and my colleagues for this particular concert are Harry Ward, who's a young virtuoso Australian violinist. He's been named this year as a Musica Viva Future Maker for this year and next year. And I just saw that he's become a finalist in the 2020 Friedman Awards.
Excellent.
Along with one of my other lovely colleagues, Grace Clifford. And the cellist is a very good old friend, Timo Veikko Valva, who's the
principal cellist from the ACO.
Lovely, lovely. And this is going to be a digital concert as well, isn't it? So your subscribers,
yes.
they're already covered. They can get in there. But for people who are not yet subscribers, hopefully they'll become a subscriber once they've seen this concert. Just to buy the one-off ticket, that's possible as well on your website, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. There are lots of options. So we've got a concert, which is normal Selby and Friends. There's one of us artists will introduce each work before it's performed. Then there's a concert program. There's lots of photos. There's a lovely discussion between the three of us. There's a lot to choose from.
I'll put the link up so that everyone can see what it is. And even if you are looking at this video after the concert, you can go to the website, which is selbyandfriends.com.au, and you'll be able to pick up all the latest concerts and a subscription if you'd like, and you can see all the wonderful work that Kathryn has put online already. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kathryn.
Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you so much.